the Joker. Who's seen the film The Joker? If you haven't seen it, it's a little bit of a spoiler, so don't watch this video if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, stick around. We're going to dive into some interesting findings in psychology, the character himself, and other things to kind of connect to. I like to connect things because I see everything is connected. So there's other things that connects to this topic. So yeah, the film, first of all, the film was beautifully done. Crazy character, but it was done quite well. The Joker. Well, so it's basically a man that had some mental illness, some mental troubles, coupled with a messed up environment as well, and coupled with his choices that created the Joker that we saw at the end of the film. The Joker is a classic ENTP personality type. An ENTP is basically, in the Myers-Briggs, is basically a psychologist that made these personality types. If you've ever done one of these 16 personality types, they're pretty cool. They give some good understanding of different types of personalities, and the Joker is definitely an ENTP, 100%. And basically, the ENTP personality type is extroverted, intuition, thinking, perceiving type. So they are basically the quick-witted personalities. The quick-witted personalities. So that's part of their personality. This case of what we saw the Joker was a classic ENTP being abducted by his own demon function. His demon function fully took over and he became the Joker. You're like, what the hell is this word? Demon functions? What the hell? Basically, in MBTI, I'm not an expert in this field, but like a science communicator, I'll be communicating the basics of it, but I'll be putting a lot more descriptions and the channels of people that are more expert in this field, such as C.S. Joseph, shout out to you. So basically, the Joker, and every personality type, the 16 types of personalities, and we have 8 cognitive functions in these in our stack. So we have the dominant, which is what we use on a day-to-day basis. It's our strongest part. Then we have the passenger part of our personality, and then we have our and then we have a third function, which is, it's not our aspiration. Aspiration is the fourth function, and then we have what is the third function? The actual name of it. I forgot the name of it, but I'll put it here somewhere. But I know exactly what it is. So it is this, for the ENTP, their aspiration is basically it's almost like their weakest function. And as an ENTP, their aspiration is, their weakest function is sensing. That's one of their weakest functions, and it basically means recalling back memories, recalling back on distant memories and details. And when you looked at the film, that was one of his challenges, his work and stuff, is his work. And the biggest challenge that he faced, his third function as an ENTP is basically relationships. That's one of his child functions. We all have weaknesses in our personalities, and we all have child functions, and these functions are not as strong as our dominant parent functions. So this function of the Joker was was wanting like people, relationships and stuff like that, and the environment that he grew up in was such trauma, abused that child function of his. That's what when you see him in the film, there's some parts of some aspects we see him like he's almost like a child. That's his aspiration. He aspires to be this thing, and he aspires to connect with people, which he couldn't really do due to certain different circumstances, abuse, etc., etc., etc. And if we as people don't look after each other's child functions, it's literally child abuse. It is literally child abuse, because we all start off as children, and some of our personalities are not as defined when we are kids. And when we grow up, our personality starts to develop, and then we start to see what our strengths and weaknesses are. Sometimes we can notice a child's strength when they're a child, but it's not necessarily strong in the grand scheme of things. But when we grow up, we still have functions that are going to be still quite weak in comparison to our other functions. And if we abuse people on these aspects of them, it is literally child abuse. We're abusing the aspiration aspect of them. So the demon function. So those are the four main functions that we use on a day-to-day basis. The demon function is the last function. The demon function is literally, out of our 8 cognitive functions, it's the 8th one. And as an ENTP, the Joker's 8th cognitive function, demon function, is basically called something they call SI. This demon function hates physical reality. The famous line of the Joker is, he just likes to see the world burn. Some men just like to see the world burn. This function of the ENTP, the demon function, literally just for destruction. And the 7th function, which makes this 8th one more possible, is that they don't care about relationships anymore. When we go up into their normal functions, that is one of their weaknesses that they almost aspire for. But when the demon function flips and takes over the person's actual personality, because that's what happens, the demon function takes over. It's superfluous now. It takes over, and the person literally almost gone. So that happened with the Joker. The Joker's demon function took over, and it, like I said, it destroys everything. And the 7th function is called a deceiving function, and like I said, it uses relationships. It doesn't care about relationships. Even in the film, he said, what do you care about? He's like, I don't care about anything. I have nothing to lose. And yeah, the demon function took over. This aspect of the demon function and all this cognitive functions, there's a guy on YouTube, his name is C.S. Joseph. He explains this best. I'll put it in the description box below. He explains this in much more detail and in much more structured way. but I'm just touching on it a little bit. So the point I'm trying to make is that that's the reason why the film is very, 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 very well done, is that the director really understood, he really, really understood his personality type, and how it became so that the demon function took over. The environment played a big part in that also. Now we're going to go into a bit of thing is, every action has a consequence. When we touch a stove, a hot stove, it's painful, it hurts. That instant feedback of pain is the consequence of me touching it. So we have laws, consequence. So the Joker has to is responsible for his choices and his actions 100%. 100%. Oh, I say 90, yeah, but for his choices 100%. But the condition, we are all a part of that. Like I said, our child functions very, very important. We are each other's keepers. Every in MBTI and in the 16 personality types, they all have a demon function. They all have a demon function, and they all express themselves differently. So the demon function is antagonistic to the rest. It like I said, it just seeks to destroy. It's literally disconnected. And how we can see in the film, the Joker the demon function slowly taking over, is first he has a bit of narcissistic personality, and this is just when his child function has been abused a little bit. And then you can start seeing these traits. These are words that we put on these traits that we're noticing, narcissism and stuff like that, because that, like I said, that is his tertiary function, is relationships. That's not his strongest suit, but that is one thing that they value, that they want to connect with people, places and things. And when we abuse that, when we abuse each other's child functions, and if an environment sustains that abuse, and it sustains it constantly, and it's sustained, that's when the demon function takes over. Usually we go through the different cycles until that. It takes a while. Like I said, check out that video below, they will explain it better. So yeah, it's a classic ENTP gone bad. I'm not trying to say all ENTPs personalities are like this. Hell to the no. All I'm trying to say is that in this study of psychology, we have different cognitive functions that we use all the time. The demon function always wants to take over, but it doesn't take over that easily. It's the 8th function. It's there for a reason. But if some people are going under such immense and there's a disconnection from everyone and everything around them. It's crazy. It's crazy. The reason why I say that, so he suffered from some mental illness. He suffered from some mental illness that also played a big part in everything. There's so many different variables that played a big part in how the Joker became to be such a horrendous character. And he started to enjoy being bad, being evil. And once that happens, like I said, it has to be a consequence for every action, always. Because sometimes some people can go through the same situations painful as it is, but they find the light out of it and not create as much destruction as they felt. And that's the difference between a superhero and a supervillain, is that a lot of superheroes and supervillains, a lot go through similar things. Some superheroes, if you look at the backstory, you probably wouldn't tell the difference between who's a superhero and who's a supervillain. But the main difference that I've found between the two is that a supervillain, out of everything that has happened to a supervillain, there's a fine line. Because all this has happened to me, I want the world to feel it all. I want the world to feel it. I want the world to feel what I have gone through. Superhero is, they rise above that line. They rise above that what's happened to them. They connect to what they love. They connect to, this happened to me, but I don't want my children, I don't want anybody to feel what I went through. And I don't allow what happened to them to define them, but it does play a big part in their life, but it doesn't define them. So that's the main difference between a superhero and a supervillain. It's just a small inside of it. I know there's so many different variables that work with different things. But touching on the environment thing, right? We're going to go into mythology. Let's go into some mythology. So, in mythology, when there's a cult, you've got these cults and they worship these demons and stuff like that. They know the value, they know the importance of the environment when it comes to demon possession. So in mythology, when they wanted to get someone to become possessed by a demon, what they would do is give this person a traumatize this person. They give them a specific type of trauma, and they sustain this trauma with the environment. Everything in the environment they sustain it. They want to create that environment, and they sustain that trauma to that person, and then the demon attaches itself to that person depending on what type of trauma they're giving them. When the demon attaches to them, they keep that environment going until that environment seeps into the individual, and now the individual creates that environment everywhere they go. And that's basically what it looked like the Joker was doing. Everywhere they go, they just create destruction. And touching on another part of mythology, I'll put a link in the description below. There's this thing called Thoughts and the Demon. So these are all different things. These are not psychology, but it's so weird that they share similar understanding. But anyway, I feel like I'm rambling a bit. But yeah, so yeah. There was a line in the film that they said, the Joker said, when you mix up mental illness, someone that's suffering, with an environment that has no compassion, no empathy, nothing, you can create some really ugly things. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to say, like, we need to all look after each other's child function. What is that? We need to look after each other's child functions. We all have an inner child that expresses itself differently. We need to be there for each other's child function. We have to. We need to. if we don't, and if we attack those parts of each other, that is a child function, is literally child abuse. Even if you're an adult, we have child functions. It's part of our cognitive function. It's part of it. It's part of it. And we need to be there for each other. Understanding is important. Understanding. We need to understand this. It's important. It's very, very important. It's very important. We shouldn't allow fear, greed, all these things that is below that line to stop us from connecting to each other. Because trust me, your strength is somebody else's weaknesses. And if we don't allow fear to cloud our judgment and other things to cloud us, and just connect our strengths to each other's weaknesses and them to yours, and not abuse them because they're weak in that area, or you're look at you, look at that. Laughing at people's weaknesses and using it against them. The film took it to an extreme level, very extreme level, but we need to look after each other's child function. We have to. We have to. It's literally child abuse. Literally. But anyway, that was just something I wanted to share. And yeah, I don't know how well this video went. I just wanted to review the film. I literally just saw it. And yeah. Anyway, guys, until next time, stay curious, stay blessed. Peace.